And Jaci, I believe you're here. Yes,
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Her name is Jaci Finneman. She's the visionary founder of No Problem Parenting, and the creative force behind the No Problem Parenting podcast, which is amazing. If you guys ever get a chance, you should listen to it. With unwavering dedication, Jaci is on a mission to empower parents, guiding them to be the confident leaders their children long for. Jaci has traversed the realm of family dynamics for over 3 decades, initially as a paraprofessional in public schools, then at 20 years of being a family counselor, and then transitioning into being a parent coach and consultant. She has the unique ability to connect with both kids and parents and give them valuable support to tackle and conquer behavioral and communication challenges. Her unique approach goes beyond geographical boundaries. She's connected with families in the comfort of their homes, in person or virtually, to address all kinds of challenges. In 2013, she established Hello World, which is a pioneering venture committed to giving parents the tools and insights required for no problem parenting. And this innovative model encourages parents to redirect their focus from the problem itself to constructive solutions and foster healthier family dynamics. As a parent coach and consultant, speaker, podcast host, author of 2 books now, compilations, which contains a lot of different people, including myself and some of our speakers this next 3 days. Jaci boasts an impressive track record, has over 50,000 hours of experience aiding children and families affected by trauma and various mental health diagnoses. Her down-to-earth, authentic, and reliable personality serves as a beacon of light, hope, and clarity for her clients. And I am so pleased to present Jaci Finneman.
Well, thank you. That was the long bio. I thought I sent you a shorter one instead of
sorry, I
boring everybody with all the stuff, right? But
It's
no,
all
I'm
good.
excited to be here today, Edina.
Glad you could make it.
Yeah, I am very much under the weather. We're not sure if it's allergies or if I actually have an infection. So I'll be heading to the doctor immediately after this. So if I look a little puffy, that is why.
You look great.
But I did not want to miss this event to be able to connect with you all, and anything you're doing, Edina, I'm all in. And I see Dr. Mort is here. Yes, you both have been in the books. No Problem Parenting, you guys, does not mean that, oh, no problem. We've got behavior problems or challenges with our kids, and it's just no problem. It has absolutely the opposite of that. Problems are actually right in the definition of the word problem. If you look it up, it says that it's a matter or a situation that is unwelcome or harmful and needing to be dealt with and overcome. And so No Problem Parenting is all about giving problems only as much attention as they deserve. And as we say in the Midwest, we keep her moving. And so I'm here to help you, all parents, turn any behavior problem into a no problem, and it can legitimately be done. I specialize in working with families who have adopted children or have children with attachment disorders, reactive attachment disorder, which is due to a break in separation or a break in primary caregiver. So within the first 3 years of life. And a lot of times these kids don't trust, and they seem, totally fine on the outside and to everybody else, but at home, mom and dad are really struggling. And the divorce rate for kiddos who have attachment disorder is somewhere in the 80% rate. And oftentimes it's because mom and dad are both doing their best and the child is rejecting mom or rejecting dad, and the parents are at odds with each other because they're not seeing the same behaviors in the kids or just not sure how to help. And so while I'm not a divorce specialist, I do have a really great success rate of helping parents to either prevent the divorce from happening if it's a child related, like a parenting related struggle that the parents are going through, or if you just have had to make that decision and you have divorce, how can you co-parent? and be as successful as possible to make sure that that child stays the center of divorce and we're meeting their needs. So I know, Adina, today we kind of talked about having my session be, or my presentation be more of an interview style. Before I have you ask me questions or open it up to the audience for questions, I thought I'd share with you guys the 3-step approach, or the 3 key things that I teach all parents to become that no problem parent. And really, that's all about helping you become the confident leader that I say our kids crave us to be. We don't have to know everything, but we are the experts of our kids. And how can that be? How can we be the expert of our child and still be struggling? Well, it's because we can't possibly know everything. There isn't this, one particular manual that comes uniquely written for our child and their individual personalities or needs. And so, but I can help you become confident in your parenting of your child, so that no matter what is thrown your way, you're able to help and support your child and feel really good about your parenting. So yeah, we don't have to be the expert, much like the expert of a company. I'm the expert of my company, but I can tell you, while I am really, really good at coaching parents, I am not so great at technology. I am not so great, at writing the content and things like that. I find support and help in the areas that I don't excel at. And that's exactly what we need to do as parents, right? So as I was an in-home family counselor for 20 years, a mental health practitioner, working directly with kids and families in their homes to help them through a variety of diagnoses, depression, anxiety, ADHD, oppositional defiant, and of course, attachment disorders, I learned something that has really been the foundation of Hello World and No Problem Parenting this last 10 years. And that is that when we support the parent, we support the child. So as much as sometimes we want to, as parents, we don't know what to do. We know our child's struggling. We feel like we need to go to our pediatrician or send them to therapy, get a therapist for them. That's great. And oftentimes those are needed resources. But when the parent is supported and when the parent feels very confident and in the know and good about what they're doing, their relationship and communication with their child, it's a game changer for the child. And our kids would actually rather, believe it or not, most times have the conversations with us than with a therapist or just a therapist. And so that's where I come in. I can help you have those conversations with your kids and really seek to understand what it is that where that problem, the main problem is. So step 1 of no problem parenting, and I'm not using a PowerPoint for this. I have an offer for everybody today. I think Adina or maybe Shannon, someone can share that with you, but it is to get my online parenting training. I call it a course, but it's really a training, 1.5 hour long training, absolutely free today. I believe they have a code for you to actually go and get that 1.5 hour long training that comes with a downloadable workbook. You can get that absolutely free today. But in there, I share more about the 3 steps. Let me just summarize them for you guys today. So step 1 is to seek first to understand, why is my child behaving the way they're behaving? And why am I, the parent, responding or reacting the way that I am? This is super key. And as it relates to divorce, one of the things that I found the most success in seeking first to understand when I'm talking with parents about the divorce and how their child's behaving, maybe doing better at mom's house and then at dad's house, they're isolating, or they're calling mom all the time, or vice versa, right? Or maybe they're not doing so, they're really bucky with mom and they're rude and they're mean and they're sassy, and then dad's like, well, everything's fine here, there's no behavior problems and we're doing just fine. Those kinds of back and forth kind of challenges. One of the main key things with the kiddos that are about 6 and up, in my experience in this last 30 years, is when the parents individually, together is awesome if you have a good co-parenting relationship, but individually, if you can sit down with your child and apologize for the divorce. despite, even if the divorce is something that is the best thing that you can do for your child, and you just know that as a parent, that it is the best thing for the child's well-being and for your own, still being able to sit down with your child and say, you know what, you didn't choose this. I didn't want this. I didn't go into marriage expecting that I was going to get a divorce, and you certainly didn't choose it. And now you're going into two different households and you're having to manage all of that. And I just wanted to say to you, hon, I am so sorry that mom and I got a divorce. I am so sorry that dad and I got a divorce and we couldn't make it work. I cannot, and I would love for you, if you haven't done this already with your kiddos, I would love for you to be able to try that with your kids and get back to me. Send me a message at No Problem Parents on Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, or you can certainly email me at Jaci@helloworldmn.com and let me know the result of that, how your child responded to that. And you just pause after you say that and just see what they do. Now, it's been a game changer. I've had families sign up to do coaching with me, 3-month, 5-month coaching with me. And they've called me after having that conversation with their kiddo and said, I don't know what happened, but we're good. Like, my teenage daughter is now communicating with me just from saying that one thing. Now, of course, it's not just a magic wand, and there is a little bit of a skill to having that conversation. But I would love to hear how your child responds to that. Okay. Now, seeking first to understand, what is the root of the behavior? Did you know that when your child has a problem behavior, 9 times out of 10, that misbehavior is not actually the problem, right? There's something underneath that. There's something else going on. And so I like to view problems or problem behaviors actually as coping skills. That's what I call them. I call them coping skills. Because typically, if you have a kid that's sassing you back, that's lying, that's aggressive, that's cunning or manipulative, that's isolating in their room, I mean, they're not just doing it to do it, right? There's something going on underneath. So step 1 is seek first to understand. And that's what we need to do. Get to the root of what's going on. Step 2, not just what's going on with the kiddo, but seeking first to understand, why are you responding or reacting the way that you are to their behavior? Trigger is a big word in the last few years, right? We're triggered by things. And I think it's an appropriate word, but oftentimes we're not thinking about what is triggering us. What is it that when my kid, sasses me or throws a fit or melts down and wet noodles on the floor, what is it that is triggering me? What's causing me to be so upset by that? And that's really important. A lot of that can have to do with how you were brought up and the experiences that you had growing up, the muscle memory of the brain, right? Even though we say, I'm never parenting the same way my parents did, that muscle memory of our brain, sometimes, the words creep in and the responses creep in, and we end up responding the way we said we're never going to respond. We're never going to get mad or angry or upset, right? Or yell back or hold a grudge or ground our kids or do whatever. But sometimes that parenting, those parenting experiences of us growing up creep in. So seeking first to understand what are your triggers? What are the things that really set you off is super important. Okay. And then step 2 in No Problem Parenting is preparing for the worst. So we can't always be prepared. Life throws us curveballs. Our kids most certainly do. But there are those certain behaviors that happen day in and day out that we know are going to happen when we pick our kids up from school, right? Or when we drop them off at daycare, or when we attend, their sporting events or whatever. There are certain behaviors that happen day in and day out that we can be prepared for so that we respond to those instead of react, fly off the handle, or dread the behavior. In fact, I teach you how to look forward to misbehaviors, because misbehaviors are super key in helping our kids learn right from wrong and how to recoup from or recover from the mistakes that they make. We do not want to protect our kids from making mistakes, right? We want to teach them how to recover from those mistakes when they do. And then, so I'm going to teach you all about preparing for the worst. And that oftentimes, well, I'll get to that in a second. So we're going to talk about the pause and how we can observe our kids' behavior so that we don't react. All right. And then step 3 in no problem parenting is how to change the conversation. You guys, I believe we are giving our kids too much unconditional praise. Now, some people might be like, what? Aren't we supposed to give our kids unconditional praise? Unconditional love, yes. Unconditional praise is great, only if the child believes what you're saying. If you're giving them unconditional praise to convince them they're good, or they look nice, or they have friends, or whatever, and they don't actually believe it in themselves, we look incompetent. They don't trust us as much. They think we're just tricking them, or we're only saying it because we have to, because we're their parent. So I teach you about the difference between unconditional and conditional praise, which conditional praise is fact. Before you load up a bunch of unconditional praise, you give them some conditional factual praise first. So this looks like if your kid comes home and says, I don't have any friends, nobody likes me. What's our tendency? Our tendency is to say, of course you have friends. You have lots of friends. And we try to convince them of that, right? Instead, you might say something like, well, the other day when Joe fell down and skinned his knee, I saw you ran over there to see if he was all right. That's what a good friend does. I think you're a good friend. So give them something factual first. Instead of just looking at the assignment, the grade that they got on a test, and, maybe it was 75 out of 100. And they said, oh, I'm terrible at math. I can't do math at all. I'm the worst. You can say you got 75 math problems right out of 100. I think you're learning math and you're doing a good job. You're working as hard as you can. The good job's the unconditional, but you're giving them the factual first. You got 75 out of 100. They didn't get 0. They didn't get 30. They got 75. And so instead of just saying, oh, you are good at math, you're just learning, or whatever, you can say, give them that factual 75. Okay. So conditional before the unconditional. Were you going to say something, Adina? Oh, okay. I can go on about this forever and ever and ever. So those are the 3 steps in becoming a no problem parent. And it is really key to learn how to have the conversations with your kids and change the conversation. Step 3, we also talk about empathy versus sympathy. It is very hard. I think particularly for parents who are separated, struggling with their relationships at home, or have gone through a divorce, it can be very hard to lead the conversations with empathy if you're feeling bad about the divorce. If you're feeling guilt or shame about the divorce, we tend to lead with sympathy and feeling sorry for our kids. And I got to tell you, sympathy to a child often feels like fingernails on a chalkboard. They sense that you're not comfortable. They sense that you're feeling bad or sad. And then that makes them less confident, right? So it is so key to lead with empathy. And what is empathy? And how is that different from sympathy? I like to frame it as we don't send, if somebody we know has lost a loved one to death, we don't send them an empathy card. We send them a sympathy card because we actually can feel the pain that person is feeling, right? The grief and the loss that person is feeling. But with empathy, what empathy says is, I understand you're having a big emotion about something. You're sad, mad, scared, but I'm not as sad. I'm not relating to it as much as that. I'm saying I'm here to understand that you're struggling, and then I'm going to be here to lift you up and support you in whatever way I can, but I'm not going to feel sorry for you. In fact, a lot of times when kids get in trouble, the kids I've worked with over the years, they get in trouble, they're struggling, they're having a hard time. I often say to them, I say what it is that they're struggling with. And then I say, and I'm not here to feel sorry for you. In fact, I promise I will never feel sorry for you, that you are struggling with your grades, that you are struggling with your behavior, that whatever it is, I promise I'm not going to feel sorry for you. And sometimes kids will say, well, that sounds kind of mean. And then I go on and I tell them, because if I feel sorry for you, I'm kind of telling you that I don't think you're capable of doing better. I don't think you're capable of making right what you did wrong. I don't think you're capable of feeling, empowered that you can, that you can excel or succeed at the sport or, activity or whatever. And so I often tell kids that I promise I won't feel sorry for them. Okay. Now, a couple of key things that I'll transition to, and then Adina, I'll open it up for questions from you. A couple of key things that I work on with parents who are co-parenting. I always believe you need to have some co-parenting ground rules. Now, of course, in some divorce relationships, the parents cannot communicate at all. You're doing more parallel parenting, and you maybe need to communicate through an app. That's not what I'm talking about here today. But I do empathize with that, and I do help show you how you can parallel parent, again, without putting extra emotion and anger and resentment into the parallel parenting. And we can make things very matter of fact, and I can help you kind of pull out some of the emotion if you're in a parallel parenting situation. But for those of you listening today who are in a co-parenting situation and things are amicable, there are some key things, and I'm just going to run through those really quick. I say they're like my top 11 things to consider. Having a co-parenting plan. Do you have a co-parenting plan? Make and follow a co-parenting plan. And there are some key things that I work with on parents as far as the plan, like parenting responsibilities, basic house rules. They don't have to be the same in each house. Similar is great, but there's a misconception or a myth that rules have to be the same in each home. That is not always true and not always the case. What's the other one? Oh, and ground rules of things like being respectful, responsible, and safe. Those are about as much similarity as is necessary in both homes. And under being respectful, responsible, and safe are a lot of various other rules, right? And so I can help you with that. I talk a lot about that, but obviously today I can't get into all of that. Okay, number 2, as a parent, here's one of my other ground rules for co-parenting plans. It's up to you to take the blame. So that means I want you to stop triangulating between you, the kids, and the other parent. I want you to support the other parent, even though you're not in the same household. When a kid comes and says, Dad said, I can't do this, and I have to, he made a rule around something. You still, much like you would if you're in a relationship, you say, you know what, I'll talk to Dad about that. But you don't put Dad down in that moment, right? And start getting upset by that. And you say, Dad and I will talk about that, and I'll get back to you. Thanks for the information. Okay. But stop the blame right away. Like, oh, your father, oh, he always did that. Those kinds of conversations, we don't do that with the child. And then, of course, always using empathy with your ex. That's so hard to do. Oh my gosh, that is so hard to do. And it's achievable. But even in some pretty extreme situations and cases of abuse and things where divorce needed to happen, we've been able to use empathy. And I can teach you how to do that actually with ease. But again, it's taking some of that emotion out. Okay. And another thing, stop the leaks. So what does that mean? Stop the leaks. That means don't use the other parent as an excuse for why you're saying no or not buying something for your child. And we call that stop the leaks. So sometimes we'll say, well, I can't buy that for you because Dad isn't paying me enough child support, right? Ooh, eeks, that one makes me kind of cringe, but I've heard it a number of times. Let's not use the other parent for the reason that you're not buying or affording your child something. Instead, you can use the real life example of, I just don't have the money for that right now. Or I don't want you to have that and I'm not going to buy it. Let's be honest with the reason why we're not allowing the child to, or why we're saying no to them for something, or why we're not buying them something. And that could be saying no to them for going to hang out with their friends or sign up for a sport or whatever. If your financial situation is such that you can't afford it, you need to be honest about that without blaming the other parent. Okay. Taking total ownership and accountability. Number 4 is to keep conflict at bay. So delaying consequences. I teach this in No Problem Parenting for all parents, but delaying consequences regarding really big behaviors or problems until you and the other parent have agreed. Now, again, I'm talking about co-parenting situations, right? Always keeping safety in mind, but, and if it's parallel partner or parenting, then of course there are apps you can communicate until you've come to a decision about a consequence that a child might need to receive. So let's say they're, skipping school, or they've, I'm trying to think of a behavior, something that is going to require a big consequence. Before delivering that consequence, you can delay it. You don't have to immediately have a consequence for whatever that misbehavior was. You can wait until you and the other parent are on the same page. And so how you say this to the child is, all right, pretty upset by this behavior, you skipping school, you're doing whatever. And your dad and I are going to need to talk about that. And we're going to get back to you with what we're going to do and how we're going to handle that. Oftentimes as parents, we think we have to do consequences right away, right? And so we're going to delay that and keep the conflict kind of at bay. And life's going to go on. Our kids can mess up and have big problems. And it doesn't mean we have to be mad about everything else the rest of the day or the rest of the week or whatever, right? We can say, I'm upset with you for this behavior, and I still love you, and we're going to eat dinner as a family, right? Or I'm going to watch a show with you, or I'm going to help you with your homework, or whatever it is. All right. So minimizing the conflict. Oh, somebody else just put that in there. Yes, Adina, thanks for making notes in there for me. Minimizing conflict, especially between parents. All right. Number 6, respect the other parent's time with the kids. This comes up a lot in my coaching. It's dad's weekend to have the kids, and mom is consistently texting or calling or checking in. Are you okay? And I know sometimes if there's safety concerns, there's reason for that, but sometimes there's really not. And we need to respect the other parent's time with the kids. Making sure that we're avoiding scheduling kids' activities on the other parent's time without first clearing it with the other parent. And also not intruding on the kids' time with their other parent by calling and texting so much. I think I already said that part. So just being really respectful and appreciative to that. And if you have younger kids and you do need to check in daily, making sure you have it as consistent of a time for that as possible. Right. And then when the kids are sad or complaining or missing mom or dad when they're at the other parent's home, having a plan for how you're going to respond to that. It's not always that, oh, okay, you better call mom because dad can't handle it. Right. Or you need to like have some ground rules and some communication about how you're each going to respond to that by saying things like, with empathy, I know you miss mom. I know you miss mom. You're with mom a lot and you're missing her right now. And you're going to see her at X time. Do you want to draw her a picture? Do you want to do something? But get them not to rely on having to consistently talk with you and call you, every hour or 2 hours, because that makes the kid actually feel like there's something wrong with being at dad's house sometimes. Oh, it looks like somebody's trying to get in. Okay. All right. Number 7, is you can have it both ways. You don't have to have the same rules at each parent's home. Now, that said, like I mentioned, we want to keep rules and expectations consistent in your own home, and you want them as similar as possible, but it's okay for mom and dad to have separate rules about things. The kids will learn what is acceptable at mom's and what is acceptable at dad's. And so when they come home from dad's and they say, well, dad lets me on my iPad for 4 hours. And as a parent, you can say, hey, thanks for letting me know. And that's great that you get to do that at dad's house. What's the rule here? No argument, no back and forth resistance with that. Just what's the rule here? The kids will learn, just like they learn the rules at school. They learn the rules at grandparents' house, right? And sometimes parents will say, Grandma and Grandpa, quit giving them all that candy. Grandma and Grandpa are like, hey, I raised you. It's my prerogative right now. I get to spoil and treat my grandkids how I want to. And sometimes we have to be, accepting of that. Okay. Number 8, agreeing on the big things. That's probably the most important thing, where we can have separate rules. But if there is a really big thing, like a 16-year-old getting a car, and dad is saying, nope, they're not getting a brand new car. I want them to have an old clunker like I did, so they can, appreciate what it's like to drive up with a dent in your car or faded paint. And mom's like, oh no, I want them to be safe. I want them to have the best of the best car so that I can make sure that they're super safe. That's something that's a big thing that you'd need to agree on, right? So that when you agree on it, you can, as parents, you can both support each other in that decision. Okay. Other big things like sports, travel sports versus community ed sports. A lot of times it has to do with monetary things and making sure the parents are on the same page. And then once you agree, you need to full-heartedly support either the purchase or the decision that you've made. Number 9 is don't complain about the other parent. Now, I know a lot of you have heard some of these things before, but it is super key to avoid the temptation to complain about the other parent in front of the kids. We are the adults, they are the children. Please, at all costs, do not complain about as much as you want to, especially as they get older. That preteen and teen years, we feel like they can handle it. This is in any relationship where whether it's a marriage or co-parenting, it is so important to not complain about the other parent. Don't use your kiddos as sounding boards, right? Get a friend or call me. I'll help you. You can vent to me all day long. Number 10, talk to, because you want to do it. I mean, I do. I'm still married. My husband and I always say we're too cheap to get divorced. No, but it is so tempting to want to talk down about the other parent in front of the kids. Just don't do it. All right. So then number 10, that leads into talk directly to the other parent. Again, whether you need to have an app where you can communicate on the app, which is different than texting. If you're in a co-parenting relationship right now and you're really struggling with the text messages and things, there are some amazing apps out there where you can use the app to communicate instead. And that way you can go right to the source, which is the other co-parent, right? When you're talking about big things with your kids or working on a consequence or just filling that other parent in on what happened at home and what the behavior was and how you responded and the rule that you set at home for that consequence or whatever. And then number 11, this is probably the toughest one for me to even say out loud. But it's forgive. So as I've mentioned at the beginning, this is kind of a full circle thing. When I talk about apologizing to your kids for the divorce, and there's a skill to that, and you can definitely reach out to me and I can share in just 10 or 15 minutes how to do that. And that's absolutely free for you to book a call and schedule that with me. But how to apologize to the kids, but then how to forgive the other parent. You've made the decision to either separate or to divorce, and now it's time to create your new family picture. And shifting your mind to being able to do that and really moving forward can oftentimes take forgiveness. And that a lot of that can happen in the therapy session, which I am not there for, but I have resources for therapists that do work on that. But just also the more confident you are in your decision to become divorced, the more confident your kids will be in their behavior at home and then their connection and their relationship with the two of you. All right, Adina, that's it.
Thank you so much, Jaci. That was amazing. I wanted to give people a chance. We still have a few minutes before we take a break. If people have questions, I loved what you said about the, what did you say? It was problem behaviors are really coping skills. You made a couple of really amazing points between sympathy and empathy. What's the difference? Telling the kid you're sorry for the divorce. It just so many things that were nuggets, golden nuggets.
Oh,
So,
good. I'm glad.
yeah.
And it isn't easy, but I'm a big reframer. And, it's not, none of us can be perfect with this. There's a place to grieve. There's a place to be upset. There's a time for being sad and all those things. But, we have this idea that if you become divorced, you've sort of like, there's this, mark on you or something. And then like, even people will come up to you and be like, oh, how many kids do you have? And they're meeting you and they're like, oh, what does your husband do? And you're like, oh, I'm divorced. And they go, oh, like
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah.
And I haven't experienced that myself, but many of my clients have. And you get the opportunity to change that. You can
Mhm.
reframe that and say, oh no, it's actually great. Right now, if you feel that way, if you don't feel it's great, then you can go ahead and share more, with the person about how it's not. But I do believe that we can become confident in our new family picture, in our new family way. And we can help our kids become confident in that too. They're super resilient. So even though there's the grief that comes with divorce and blending families, right? When you have, Yadina, you're the queen of this. And I remember when you were on my podcast and we were talking about your chapter in volume 1 of the book, but talking about how it's not so much a blended family, but a tossed salad,
Right.
right? All kinds of things. And I just absolutely love that. But, we get to help our kids feel confident and comfortable in our new norm, in our new family, and how that family looks. We don't have to dread it, or feel sorry about it.
Mm-hmm. Especially step families, because a lot of people are embarrassed to say, this is my stepmom or stepdad, and there shouldn't be an embarrassment about it.
Exactly.
It's like
All
it's
right.
some sort of failure. Questions? Any questions?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time looking in the chat here.
Anyone has a question, you could either raise your hand with that little icon on the bottom that says reactions. There's a cute little raise hand button, or you can just unmute yourself and ask a question.
And if not, I'll just share more tips. You just tell me give me the 1-minute warning.
Okay, we still have 5 minutes till our break, so if you want to take it, you can. Otherwise, we'd have our break start a little bit early, I guess.
We can do that too. I do, and I didn't offer this. I should have maybe offered this as a.
Oh yes, how can people work with you if they want to?
Oh yeah, that might make some sense to put
That would be good.
Well, the easiest way to get in touch with me is to go to the website, noproblemparents.com. But you can, because there's a calendar link up there, you can schedule a time to meet with me. You can access the podcast links from there. But you can also email me direct, Jaci, and it's Jaci, thanks to my mom. She didn't put a K in there. Jaci at helloworldmn.com.
Oh, and the dashboard, if you all should have a link to the dashboard when you registered, that also has more information about you, and I believe how to.
Yeah, and I've been doing several of these speaking events here lately, so I'm not sure if I gave your group what the freebie was. I'm pretty sure I'm giving the course away.
Yeah, I believe so.
And the course actually comes with a 30-minute consult with me. We kind of do a little strategy plan on what's your biggest behavior or biggest challenge that you're struggling with right now. But then I also have on the website, if you go to noproblemparents.com, you can download for free the 60 ways to respond to your child without losing your cool.
That's great.
And on the podcast, starting last week, Thursday, I brought up the first 10 responses, and every Thursday for the next 5 weeks, they'll be sharing 10 responses at a time, so you can hear those responses in action.
And you have some amazing VIP gifts, by the way, for people that want to upgrade. But
is it the VIP? I think you have to be a VIP
to get the course. The course, yes.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing value for $47 upgrade. And you're just one of the speakers giving away these amazing gifts. By the way, I hadn't mentioned it, Rhea and I, but that little, what is it called? A QR code in the upper right-hand corner is a link to join as a VIP. So people can do it during the actual presentations or afterwards. If they decide, yes, I want a copy of this forever.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, to get my course, and I'm not just tooting my own horn, I've actually lowered the price of my course. Over the years, we used to sell it for $9.97 with a couple of coaching sessions. but it's really, it's a game changer for how to have conversations. It's a DIY. So the VIP, if nothing else in this event, it's worth it just for that course.
Just for that, I agree. So you should be able to find in the dashboard, it'll say more information about your speaker. And that's at the bottom of their picture, I believe, just so you can all find it. Yeah, access speaker page, sorry. Right under their name and their picture, it says access speaker page, a little blue button. That will give you more information about the gifts.
All
So,
right.
I think that's
Awesome.
all.
And anything I can do to help out, just let me know. I always say that and then it's like, oh, my calendar's booked. But
I don't see any golden hands going up. So nobody
Thank
else
you
seems to
so much,
have any
Jackie, for
questions.
the presentation. Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I wish I could attend more of the event. I need to head out to the doctor and see why I'm all puffed up.
Well, you did great. Thank you so much again. And we will get to take our break a minute early.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Thank
Bye,
you,
Jackie.
everybody. Don't forget to join us again in 15 minutes for the next speaker, who is Tish Loeb. I'm sorry, Rosalind Sadaka, the child-centered divorce expert.
Absolutely. See you soon.
We're going to just put music on, I guess, for the break. Everybody's going to do their thing. All right. I'm going to go eat my yogurt. Did we stop the recording?